December 15th, 1942. There was a time when people were in the habit of addressing themselves frequently and felt no shame at making a record of their inward transactions. But to keep a journal nowadays is considered a kind of self-indulgence, a weakness, and a poor taste. For this is an error of hard-boiledom. Do you have feelings? There are correct and incorrect ways of indicating them. Do you have an inner life? It is nobody's business but your own. Do you have emotions? Strangle them. To a degree, everyone obeys this code, and it does admit of a limited kind of candor, a closed-mouthed straightforwardness. But on the truest candor, it has an inhibitory effect. Most serious matters are closed to the hard-boiled. They are unpracticed in introspection, and therefore badly equipped to deal with opponents whom they cannot shoot like big game or outdo in daring. Welcome to Positive Read-Ins. That was the opening to Saul Bellow's 1944 novel, Dangling Man. Before I get talking about that and the inner transactions of this very interesting novel, please check out my own inner transactions. Link to it in the description. Thank you. Dangling Man is set in 1942. It begins in December and it ends in April 1943. It is about a man named Joseph who is 27 and he's getting ready or waiting to be shipped off to World War II. He's waiting. He's out of a job. He's living off his wife. They're living in a boarding house. He's poor and he's angry. He gets into a number of fights throughout the course of this novel. But mostly he's just trying to write about his life and try to figure out how did he become the kind of person that he is now. And he's trying to have this interior life, just like we read at the beginning. He knows that the age that he lives in is this hard-boiledom, this hard-boiled age. People don't want to show their feelings. So he's kind of retreat into the journal and explore his feelings. It's written as a bunch of journal entries. There are some longer episodes, like when they go to a party and you see a bunch of friends being drunk and badly behaved. There's a scene where he goes to his brother's house. Again, this is another one of these moments where he acts badly, ends up pulling his niece over his knee and slapping her even though she's a teenager. And so throughout this novel, he's a very angry man trying to come to terms with the current life that he has. There's no real plot to this, even less so than maybe some of Saul Bellow's other books, which tend to be light on plot and heavy on character and philosophy and kind of struggling through one kind of intellectual trying to deal with living in a society. Like Saul Bellow's other novels, it's very much, or at least it seems very much, autobiographical. Saul Bellow himself, went to war. I think he waited around this very, very similar situation that we get here. And in that way, it's very much like his other novels as well. However, I find this novel and the one he wrote right after it, The Victim, to be far more interesting than some of the novels that he's more celebrated for, like Herzog and even Mr. Samuel's Planet, though I quite like that one more than Herzog. For the character seems a bit less self-indulgent. There's less tangents. There's less, this character dealing with an angry wife, though we get a little bit of that in here. Like other Saul Bellow novels, though, we get excellent writing, some great descriptions of cityscape and a man, a human inside this world trying to make sense of it. So let me give you some examples of that. On page 24, Joseph is out. I think he's on the bus. He's looking at just his city. And he says, "These I surveyed," I mean the city, "pressing my forehead on the glass. It was my painful obligation to look and to submit to myself the invariable question, where was there a particle of what elsewhere or in the past had spoken in man's favor? There could be no doubt that these billboards, streets, tracks, houses, ugly and blind, were related to interior life." So this ugliness that I'm seeing outside, it has to be connected to the inner life. And yet I told myself there had to be a doubt. There were human lives organized around these ways and houses, and that they, the houses, say, were the analog, that what men created, they also were. Through some transcendent means, I could not bring myself to concede, right? So what we create, we are also that. But again, he's having trouble going along with this. There must be a difference, a quality that eluded me somehow, a difference between things and persons, and even between acts and persons. Otherwise, the people who lived here were actually a reflection of the things they lived among, right? So he doesn't want to believe that this ugly city, or this ugliness that he's seeing right now, is a reflection of the people. And he explains why. I had always striven to avoid blaming them, blaming the people. Was that not in effect behind my daily reading of the paper? In their businesses and politics, their taverns, movies, assaults, divorces, murders, I tried continually to find clear signs of their common humanity. It was undeniably to my interest to do this, because I was involved with them, because whether I liked it or not, they were my generation, my society, my world. We were figures in the same plot, eternally fixed together. So here's a sympathetic passage. Joseph is looking at the ugliness of the world, but saying that this can't be a reflection of our inner lives, at least not wholly, if for nothing else, for the selfish reason that I'm part of this, and I want to believe that there's something greater in us. There's some more beauty in us than just what I'm seeing outside. That showed a sympathetic side of Joseph, but there's always a more truculent side, especially when he's interacting with other people and he's not by himself. So when he goes over his brother Amos's house, they have this little interaction, and they're talking about Joseph going off to be in the army. And then Amos suggests that, hey, why not become, like an officer? So he says, well, I don't see why not, said Amos. Why not? Why aren't you going to be, get up in the army? As I see it, the whole war is a misfortune. I don't want to raise myself through it, right? I don't want to go up the line in this. This is a bad project, even though he's going off to it. Maybe he doesn't have anything else to do. But there have to be officers. This is his brother. Do you want to sit back and let some cluck do what you can do 1,000 times better? And Joseph responds, I'm used to that, I said, shrugging. That's the case in many departments in life already. The army is no exception. So this gives us Joseph's perspective that the world is full of just kind of, Amos's word is cluck, just kind of incompetent people who are trying to lead things along. And Joseph, even though he can be more competent, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to engage. He's just going to go along with things. So he's kind of maybe a lot like he would fit in quite well with today's generation. Just, let the corrupt leaders go. Let them lead, and I'll just kind of go along with it. Joseph is a complicated character. He can be unlikable, just like many of Bellow's protagonists, especially around interaction with women. There's a scene here where Joseph goes and meets this woman named Kitty, and he's having not a full-on affair, but certainly something like that. It starts off innocent, but then it goes another way, and he kind of explains this here a bit. He says, I saw it her way for 2 months, meaning I saw it Kitty's way, and this is the affair, or until she began hinting at my leaving Eva. Eva's his wife. She claimed that Eva did not treat me well, and that we were not suited to each other. I had never given her cause to think so, but she said she could tell. I have no real appetite for guile. The strain of living in both camps was too much, and I was unlike myself. I was out of character. It did not take me long to see that at the root of it all was my unwillingness to miss anything. So at the root of why he was doing this, he's saying it was because he didn't want to miss anything, miss out on something. A compact with one woman puts beyond reach what others might give us to enjoy. The soft blondes and the dark, aphrodisiacal women of our imaginations are set aside. Shall we leave life not knowing them? Must we? So this is Joseph's explanation for why he is behaving badly as he is here. He wants to know everything in the world. So this is kind of tied into why he's writing this journal to begin with. He's trying to examine life. He's trying to examine experiences. He wants to know about the world fully that he's living in. Some of these entries are quite short, just like fairly quiet today. That simple. Others are sort of funny, but also interesting in what they're writing about. There's one on January 18th, this 2-paragraph entry where he's watching the Mary, who comes and cleans his room, and he kind of meditates on cleaning. He says, to make a dirty surface clean, a very simple, very human matter. I, while shining shoes, grew partly aware of it. In those moments at the window, how different Marie was. How purely human as she rubbed the glass. I sometimes wonder if it can be entirely a source of pleasure to clean. There is too much urgency in it. Sometimes it becomes a preoccupation of body and heart. In anxiety I lie, thinking, what surface tomorrow? But it has its importance as a notion of center, of balance, of order. A woman learns it in the kitchens of her childhood, and it branches out from sinks, windows, tabletops, to the faces and hands of children. And then it may become, as it does for some women, part of the nature of God. So we have a very simple passage here about a lady cleaning, and we get this kind of philosophical perspective on it, which ties in really, again, back to Joseph's whole project here of the way we engage with the world shapes how we view the activities that we do. And in this case, it's cleaning, how cleaning every day is going to shape your perspective on the world. Just like writing and reflecting every day, like Joseph does, we'll do the same. As I mentioned previously, we've got some great descriptions of Chicago and city life. One of them that really stood out to me is on page 114. He says, I came down on the L, getting off at the Randolph and Wabash station. There were crooked streaks of red at one end of the street, and at the other, a band of black, soft as a stroke of charcoal. Into it were hooked the tiny lights of the lakefront. On the platform, the rush hour crowds were melting under the beams of oncoming trains. Each train was followed by an interval of darkness when the twin-colored lamps of the rear car hobbled around the curve. Sparks from the street below were caught and blanked in the heavy, flat ladder of ties. The pigeons under the sooty sheet iron eaves were already asleep. Their weighted shadows fell on the billboards, and with every train fluttered as though a prowler had sprung from the roof into their roost. And as you can see, the city seems alive in that description. Bellow does an excellent job through Joseph of capturing the kind of the chaos and all the little the pigeons and the soot, all this kind of chaos and dirt and filth that kind of is part of living in a city. So after getting into a number of altercations, Joseph decides, and also, getting into altercations with his wife, getting into another fight with someone at the boarding house. This would be like the second one that has happened, or at a boarding house, and he's going to get forced to leave. He decides to force the army to kind of take him. He goes in late night, signs something so he can be off. And it ends on April 9th with this short passage. This is my last civilian day. Eva has packed my things. It is plain that she would like to see me show a little more grief at leaving. For her sake, I would like to. And I am sorry to leave her, but I am not at all sorry to part with the rest of it. I am no longer to be held accountable for myself. I am grateful for that. I am in other hands. Relieved of self-determination, freedom canceled. Hooray for regular hours, and for the supervision of the spirit, long live regimentation. So the dangling man is someone who doesn't want to be accountable to anyone anymore. He wants to have other people making decisions, and he just wants to not have to engage with the challenge and decisions of living in a society that clearly isn't giving him what he needs or what he wants. Sounds like we have some dangling men today as well. This was Saul Bellow's first novel, again written in 1944. I think it's worth checking out and seeing how he's developed as a writer. Thank you for listening.